Kei te mihi nui. Ki te taho o tōku whaiara ko Josephine Wanarere, ko Ruapehu te maunga, ko Whanganui te awa, ko Atihau Nui a Paparangi te hei Maori ora. Ki te taho o tōku pāpāra ko Punga Paewai, ko Ruahine te maunga, ko Manawatu te awa, ko Rangitane na Ngāti Ranginui te iwi te hei Maori ora. Nō reira, ko Mavis Mullens ahau. My name is Mavis. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. What a privilege to be here. What a fabulous opportunity to sit through this morning and to hear and understand the depth and width of opportunities that our communities have. I just want to congratulate you. I probably didn't realise, but I'm very, very grateful. The first thing I thought I would very quickly do is just share a bit of my journey, because it is a little bit different, as each of our journeys are. So, very proudly a wool handler, wool classer, and my background has come from the shearing sheds of the Hawke's Bay. But I've had to understand from shearing sheds to science. There's a lot of science in terms of wool, the red meat, products, all of that. From farming, from being a farmer to being a food creator, to being a food exporter, safe food, good food, healthy food. From being a business person to then being a founder of 2 Degrees Mobile in a hostile environment. That was fun. From rural to global. My home is in Dannevirke. That's my preference. I love small town New Zealand, but Wellington's my second home almost. And then from Wellington to global, when you're a food exporter, the world is our playground. With my whakapapa hat on, I come from a long line of protectors of land, protectors of water, to now being in a position where I've been privileged to be part of a settler of treaty claims. And in July next month, Rangitane will be having its third reading for settlement. What an amazing journey that is. Tell you what, it's hard work being Māori. Hey. And then, of course, growing up in a very cultural environment, to then understanding commerce and all of that brings. But then, there's now again a slide back to culture. Commerce, culture, commerce. It's how we make those things work. And there was a very telling comment earlier this morning about the paper that Maureen put up around the aspiration paper, I think it was, and the question about where does commerce really fit in all of that. And, it has to fit, because that's one of the things that will underpin. It's not the predominant, and we shouldn't ever let it be the predominant, but it is very important. So in terms of my journey, I can go from rackety old tennis shoes to high heels with flash fingernails with, excuse my language, sheep shit underneath my nails in the flick of an eyelid, and I love it and I'm appreciative of it. And I guess it's about the width and breadth of our experiences that give us what we have that makes us different. That's the big contributor, for us today. But I'm always really mindful about the fresh lenses we need. I'm very mindful that sometimes we can be too long. We need a fresh lens because we need to continue to innovate. Because if we're not innovating, we're stagnating. And stagnating stinks. So we need to just be not fearful of change and innovation, but we need to encourage it, bring it, support it, make sure it happens. And one of the ways that we've been able to do this, or this has been kind of my battle horse of late, environmental stuff is a big deal for all of us. And as farmers, we know the science. We know about nutrient budgets. We know about water quality. We know about air quality. We know these things. But you know what? The science isn't enough. We have to now engage the heart as well. And so, I've kind of coined this ka rongo aroha ki te whenua. We need to listen and look at the land because she's telling us what to do. She's giving us the hints. And I often say to my normally Pākehā farmer friends, she has a name. She is a she. She is a she. She has a name. Put a face to her. Personalise her. Because if we personalise our farming activities, they may be different, they may not. But when it is the face of your nanny or your grandchild, there's something different that comes over us. So again, it's the balance. It's that balance between commerce, culture. It's the balance between the science and the heart. Don't ever let people... and one of the interesting things, when I did my master's degree, one of my tutors said to me, my prof said to me, don't you do too much of this academic stuff because you'll lose your innovation. So it is about, made me really understand about the balance. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples, I guess, of how learning and development for me, how I'm able to put it into context. So Paewai Mullins Shearing, we're a 4th generation shearing company. My grandfather was Louis Paewai, my father Punga, then my husband Koro Mullins and I. He's the cool presser I married at a very young age, still married, with the 4 kids and the 14 mokopuna. When we took over, and now our daughter is buying the shearing run, but when we first went into this business, we thought we were employers. Well, get that right, and heard a bit about that this morning, about the programs that ACE do with employers. It was a different base we had to start from as an employer. We often had the young people that came to us, and not so young, that fell through the gaps. These were the people we were often the people of last choice for them. We were their last shot at being, and maybe I'm overplaying this, but being really productive people for themselves. Okay, so that meant we had to go right back. It was about values. So it came to be something as basic as that. When you come to work for us, you become part of our whānau. That means we expect you to do the right thing, and you expect us to do the right thing. So those kaupapa Māori values started to really play a big part. It was about whānau. It was about manaaki. Doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter what school you went to, or where your father, what work your father does, none of that mattered. This was about you, and you come into us and we work with you. Mātauranga became a big deal for us because our people hadn't come through the learning system. Very few tertiary, none actually, and if they did come, it was through their holidays while they had time off from varsity. But what we had to try to instill in that position, in that place, was that learning is everywhere. It's not just in a classroom. It is in the people you deal with. It's in the mahi that you do. It's in the value you put in terms of teamwork. So there was a lot of that real back to basic stuff that we had to come to grips with as employers. And then my husband was a shearing instructor. And I kept thinking, how come the guys all get trained and we don't? We were the wool handlers, the rousies. So I started to, and I must have been really, when I think back, just the cheek of it really. But I started to ask the shearing instructors, how come we can't do stuff like this? How come you fellas get a flash ticket and we don't have anything? And so I was asked to work with members of the Wool Board back in the day to start to formalise our training so that it could be logged onto the framework. They sold a fabulous story because that was then about, as shearers and wool handlers, we were going to be the same as a builder or a nurse or a plumber. You know, we were going to have the same tohu, the same ticket. Very appealing. And you know what? For a lot of our people, that was the first chance they got to succeed at anything. And the mana and the, you know, you could almost touch it. The pride that they came away with. Well, that wasn't enough for us because back in those days, there were 2 wool handling competitions in the North Island. And we thought, right, we're going to make up one of those. So we did. We went down the South Island, found out how it all worked, ran a couple up in the north. Next minute, the Wairarapa came to Dannevirke and said, we want to do one. Taihapea came. Now there's over 17 wool handling competitions in the North Island. We now have a global circuit. We now have a world championship. You know, and that's about the mana of the person. It wasn't about the mana of our business. This was about the mana of the person. And so the other big thing that we started to understand is if you come shearing, it's not a job for life. There's nothing worse than a 50-year-old shearer, believe me. It's not good for them and it's not good for us. You know, so we started to instill that this is a pass-through part of your journey. You come, you learn how to work, you work hard, you get up at 5 in the morning, you'll work till 5 at night, you'll be part of a team that you have to contribute to. We can give you some qualifications, we can put you up on a stage to be recognised for your fabulous skills, but don't stay here forever. So it was about preparing them for what was next. So were we employers? By geez, they don't pay us for all that other stuff. The other quick example I want to give around how we develop ourselves as people. I used to chair Aohanga Incorporation. I'm a shareholder. Beautiful piece of whenua out on the northern Wairarapa coast. It's tough country though, hard to farm, very exposed. You might even call part of it fragile country. And our shareholders were never going to get a dividend. Never. You know, it needs all the money to look after itself. So we used to say to our people, what can we do? Because you're not going to get any money out of Wahanga. What is it we can do? And they said, build us some little batches so we can bring our kids out to the coast. You know, help us to make sure that our children understand. So we went, okay, every decision we will now make will be what we call a mokopuna decision. It's not about us. It will be a decision based on their needs. That led us to developing a 100-year plan. And we got a bit of flack about that. People say, how can you do that? What a load of, you know, you're just dreaming. But if you're a farmer, a forestry rotation is 30 years. So that's only 3 forestry rotations. If you're in Ngā Whenua Rahui covenant, that's every 25. Oh, that's 4 kawenata. We know the financial implications, expenditure and revenues for all of those things. So we could start to plug in some of that stuff. Before you knew it, we were down to decade plans, you know, real plans. And that now has become the real catch cry for Māori, because we talk about intergenerational, but we don't always know how to evidence it. So now we're starting to really put some runs on the board. The thing about Wahanga, small, pohara, and I kept saying, don't matter, long as we're the smartest. Don't matter being small, let's just be smart. And there's been some amazing things happen with that incorporation. Oops. The last one, and possibly a little bit more relevance to this audience, Taratahi is a agricultural training institute on the other side of the hill. It was formed by a farmer back in the day who came back from war. When he passed, he set that farm aside to train returned servicemen. Of course, it's gone on now to train young people. But the whole kaupapa was about real learning on real farms. You can't learn to shear a sheep in a classroom. You can't learn to put a post in a classroom. You have to be on the land. And so that's part of the kaupapa that we have. At the moment, we have about 2,000, not just young people, people of all ages, second chance learners that come through our doors. Again, it's a little bit like the shearing. We start at a different place, and I don't know whether it's about rural, I don't know whether it's about farming that attracts or has its arms open to people who have learning challenges. So we have to do things around literacy and numeracy, and I'm really pleased to have met a number of you here today who do some of that work with us at Taratahi. But I guess one of the things, and I had a great vent to Maureen around, our funding models. Oh my gosh, drives me crazy. I'm a business person and none of it really makes much sense to me. So every opportunity I get in the nicest possible way, I say nice things to some of our political decision makers, and then I tell them that we have a funding model that does not encourage best behaviour. It doesn't keep our learners at the centre of the picture. Learners are there and we're all scrapping at the back. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. And for me, this is something more than just training. This is about succession planning for NZ Inc. We have agribusiness, primary sector. This is us. It's what we've been blessed with right down the bottom of the world. We've got some amazing opportunities. But if we don't have the training, the learning, all that skill-based stuff, then we've got nothing. So, their big goals of 2020, double export, whatever, no, not going to happen. Not going to happen unless they come and talk to you and people like us. So it's the learner journey from go to go. And people say from go to woe. No, there's never any stopping. This is forever. And the thing that I'm really passionate about is technology as the new tool. It's not even new. Why are we taking so long to pick this up? How come we still have to evidence stuff on a paper? For goodness sake. Anyway, that's me, my vent. Sorry. But look, I'd rather have an opportunity to answer questions. But who's been to see Maui? Who's been to see Moana? Cool. Who hasn't? You guys need to go and find a little person, take them by the hand, go to a movie theatre. They will love it. But there were some really cool things that came out of this for me. So Maui is one of our eponymous ancestors right through the Pacific. He must have been a dude and a half, actually, because he was fearless, absolutely fearless. Attack the sun, pull up whales, and slightly careless. That often comes from being fearless, doesn't it? He was an explorer, curious, wanted to know where, what, how. And he did stuff. He just did it. Right or wrong, he just did it. And again, let's get the balance right. He was damn arrogant. And I love this word. He was a hautatu. Hautatu's mischief, always, how these little grandkids are. We've got a little one. If there's a chocolate in the house, she'll smell it out. You can hide it anywhere you like. But hautatu, curious, wanting to know, touchy. That was Maui. And of course he's strong, as you can see. When this first came out, some of our people got a little bit offended because he almost looks obese, but he's just a big man. Let's get on to it. He was a demigod, he was a trailblazer. The movie had Moana. Moana was a young girl, she was visionary. She had the big picture. Highly ethical, almost to a point of being a pain, but highly ethical, very, very, very straight on that. She was determined. She knew what she had to do and she was determined. She was brave and bold as well. and spirited. You know, you just love that young spirit. And she was all about the people. Now, I was brought up with the stories of Maui. It was all about him, how, you know, all of that stuff. There's been a bit of a shift. There's a new lens in our world today, and our young people are growing up with Maui and moana. And I'm not just talking about a gender balance, I'm talking about a balance of everything, of a whole lot of different things. If we don't have the balance, then we're forever going to be jumping up and down on one foot. Makes it tiring. So I guess the big thing that for me around learning, not just for our young people but for all of us, is that this is a lifelong journey and we should always be looking for the new lens. And if we don't have it, let's find someone who does. Because as you've said in your own documents, the only thing constant is change. I love change. So that's my little contribution to your forum. I've been really honoured to sit and just to listen and to feel of the spirit and your real engagement, depth of engagement in what's good for our people, for our communities, and I thank you so much for all the mahi that you do. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. My biggest driver has been my daughters, the young women in my life. And one of those things, and I've said this, I talk about this all the time, I spoke to a group of young people and I said to them, what do you know about the shearing sheds? And these were all young leaders, 7th form, well, they were, and they said things like, you work hard, you sweat and smell, drink a lot, easy woman. And I looked at these, and I was offended, but then I thought, no, get over it. You know, there's elements of that. Don't let's whitewash things away. Let's own it. Let's own our stuff. But what did bother me is that these young people were going to be our future leaders, future politicians, future lawyers, accountants, advisors, and they had that view of me and my sector. Oh, no way, buddy. And so I've done as much as I can so that my girls will never have to feel that way, that my granddaughters and any other, like I say, all these people that come work with us are ours anyway, so I see them under that same veil. It's, if you get a powerful driver like that, it makes you do the most ridiculous things, because I've done some crazy things because I never want our young women, especially our young Māori women, because they have a bigger step to get up there. I never want them to have to feel that as hard as I felt it. Yeah, and sometimes that takes a bit of careful thinking, because you only have this much, just this much time, probably only 10 words tops, and it'll only be the first 4 that you've got your chance to. So, I think that would be one of the first things I'd do, just take a minute, and what are the key messages that you need to push through. Like I said, I often say, this is an environment that promotes almost cannibalistic behaviour. And they go, but whatever it takes to get their attention, really, because then they'll think about that and give you, that's often followed by a question back.